Did you manage to get an ad up in Bedford Pages?
Yep, I did.
Marvellous. Did you manage to get a... Right, that's better. Now, now to shift you to host.
You do the introduction, and then I'll come on, okay?
We're already on.
Right, okay. Everyone out there in the social media sphere who's watching us at the moment, welcome to the Two Davies Show.
Nobody's watching us yet. Give it a minute.
All right.
Yeah, Jim. Hi, Jim. Hi, Stephen. So, just give a couple of minutes to people get in, David. Then I'll introduce the show. All right. We've gone out on YouTube. It might be a bit slow with people cottoning on.
It's all right. Don't worry about it. Just they'll find us. You know, of that, I've got every confidence in the people that like to come and see us. Simple as that, you know.
Well, there's piling in now. So good afternoon, everyone. We'll give you a couple more minutes, and then we'll get on with today's show. Donald, Anthony, Brian, Stephen. So we'll just see a wee minute. Hit the like buttons, guys. That way we can keep a track of how many are there. There's 20 watching us now. Let's see, we'll get a wee minute. That's it, just went 4:01. So we'll get started and people can join along the way, okay, and they can watch it back. So, afternoon, folks. Welcome back to the Two Davies Show. And today's show is all about... What, David? Tell them.
Okay. I'm pressing the button.
Right. Bring up the picture. We're learning how to bring up pictures, guys.
There we go.
Well, David, that hasn't appeared on the screen in Zoom.
The lag.
That's better.
Right. So.
I don't know where your pictures went right enough.
Yeah, it's all right. Don't worry about that. The presentation's being streamed from my computer, so it will blank me out. So long as you've got the actual words on the screen, that's the main thing. You can hear my voice. As you can see, the subject matter for today is our disunited kingdom, the story so far. First off, we've got Brexit. I'm just going to bring up the individual things, and what I'll do is, much as I don't like doing it, I'll read out each individual part, and then that allows us to bounce off from what's written. So Brexit, it shuts the doors on 27 other trading partners, destroys the supply chain, costing jobs and food security, has led directly to massive electricity rises. And the Bank of England have raised and are raising interest rates, which is a measure that has worked when inflation has been caused by internal factors. The factors are now external, and as a result, the GB pound is sinking. So I'll let you take the first bit, David. Carry on.
I can't see it, so you need to read it back to me again.
Right. Shuts the doors on 27 other trading partners.
Well, that's exactly what happened. Little England voted to leave the European Union, putting trade barriers up and borders up with 27 European nations. So, not a great idea. Next one.
Next one is destroys the supply chain, costing jobs and food security.
Well, we've seen what's happened with the meat supply chain. We've seen what's happened with farmers. The problems in the supply chain are down to movement of people. So with no more free movement of people, then we've got problems in the labour market. They say there's millions of jobs out there. There is, but there's nobody to fill them. So that's why we're getting breakdowns in the supply chain. There isn't enough people to actually function in each part of the supply chain. So we've got farmers can't get pickers. We've got meat processors that can't process meat. We've got trucks going nowhere because everything's getting burnt. And the meat that is being processed, we're actually exporting to Europe and re-importing it to sell back into the UK market. We're exporting it to be processed. Unbelievable. Shortage of butchers. Right, next one.
Next one has led directly to massive electricity rises. Why is that?
We did the programme on this. This is because they left the European market, the bidding system, and now we'll get rampant profiteering from the wholesalers and the energy giants here in the UK.
Yep. And finally, the last one on that screen is the Bank of England have raised and are raising interest rates, which is a measure that has worked when inflation has been caused by internal factors. The factors are now external, and as a result, the GB pound is sinking.
Well, you know, the pound's been shrinking. The pound's been sinking a good bit for quite a while now. It started tanking in February. The situation is nihil.
Yeah, as we can see on when we even on Sky or whoever, when they do the figures of the pound against the euro or more importantly the US dollar, you can see that the pound is taking a wee hit, and all those add up over the course of a year, and it's like it is definitely sinking, and it's a direct result of our import and exports being out of kilter. The balance of trade is up the Khyber, as they say, and that means that the pound is sinking, and there's nothing that the Bank of England can do now. All the actions that they had, all the levers they had to pull, are done with. And this idea of raising interest rates, Professor Richard Murphy himself says it's a load of nonsense. So,
but we'll get to that when we get to the cost of living crisis, David, because we will have to cover that in the cost of living crisis part of the show. So Brexit, basically, boiling it down, it was a bad idea. The OBR, as you know, predicted the shrinking of the economy by 4%, and they were gone. But we'll get more of that when we get to the next section. So Brexit, you know.
Yep. Okay. The cost of living crisis. It's now come to a point where the cost of living crisis is having a profound effect on people's lives. Everyone. Many factors prevail, such as profiteering by companies, Brexit yet again, and an aloof UK government who refuse to take decisive action, which is the most important issue. As the effect hits people's personal finances, the companies that these people buy from will go bust due to a lack of orders. And that means a point is coming where it will be catastrophic. It'll happen almost overnight when the companies hit the tipping point. This will cause massive unemployment on a scale never witnessed before. So, first one, David, it's now come to a point where the cost of living crisis is having a profound effect on people's lives. Everyone.
Yeah, it most certainly is. But inflationary pressures, tax hikes, you know, when you're in a cost of living crisis, the one thing you don't do is take money out of people's pockets. What the rampant profiteering is doing is taking money out of people's pockets, and to double down on the hit, the Chancellor is hitting us in our pockets as well through the national insurance hike. And we spoke about the supply chain. Commodities are in short supply because of the breakdown of the supply chain. So what commodities there are more expensive. So everybody at all levels to different extents are getting whacked by this particular cost of living crisis, whether it be increased energy costs or you're pounding your pocket not buying as much in the supermarket, right? Manufacturers, many factors, such as profiteering, we spoke about that. That's exactly what's happening here. The energy giants are they're controlling the market and they're ensuring that prices are high. That means that the producers are having to pay a lot more for the goods that they're producing, and that's being passed on to the customer. That's just how it goes. So the wholesalers, the energy wholesalers, are banging us all with wax and wax of increases. By October, energy costs will have increased since October to October. Energy costs will have increased by 123%. That is absolutely mental.
Yeah, and the fact that the UK government are completely aloof to the situation. They're refusing to take decisive action, which they could do, and that is the most important issue, as it says on the plate.
They could take decisive action. Of course they could have. They could have made the energy giants take the hit. They could have imposed a cap.
Yeah.
They could have imposed a cap. France done it. Germany done it. Italy, they threatened to nationalise if they put it up any more than X amount. So it could have been done. There has to be the political will. But we've spoken to this before. All these bloody elite Tories, they all own shares in the big energy companies, so they're making dividends at the moment. The Treasury's no idea nothing about it because it's taxing it all. So it's bulging at the moment, and at the same time, with people going to food banks and minimal help from the UK Exchequer.
Okay, now this is one of my favourites that you do, is as they affect people's personal finances. The companies that these people buy from will go bust due to the lack of orders, and that means a point is coming where it will be catastrophic. It'll happen almost overnight when the companies hit the tipping point.
Aye, so, but you know the story, David. You've heard me talk about this in the Andy Truck Davy vlog. We've just spoke about taking money out of people's pockets in the cost of living crisis. You don't take money out of people's pockets, you put it in people's pockets. So we Mrs. McGumpher can't buy a carpet, can't buy a TV, can't change her suite. That means all these different factories don't have to make anything. So what happens is the factory owners look at the costs of running that place and go, well, the retailers aren't selling, we've got nothing to make, bang, bust, out the window. And all because the Exchequer and the rampant profiteering and the Bank of England no helping with raising inflation, interest rates. What happens is we Mrs. McGumpher's no money, no spare income to spend into the economy contracts. It's no rocket science.
And finally, the net result of that is this will cause massive unemployment, scale never witnessed before.
And we've just explained why, because we Mrs. McGumpher's not buying a new carpet, so the carpet factory's not producing the carpet. When all the wee Mrs. McGumpher's are skint, then the carpet factory shuts down. That's what we see the mass unemployment. So the cost of living crisis is actually being manufactured by the government, and the actions of government bodies like the Bank of England, and of course the fact that the elite Tories own all the shares in these bloody companies, they're actually taking money out of the pockets. Now, what we knew for the financial crash was when we look at the places that recovered really well, we can't talk about Iceland because it just jailed everybody and started from scratch until everybody get lost for no paying their debts. But what we can do is we can look across the rest of Europe, and I think Portugal was the one that got it right. It didn't give money to the banks. It gave money to the people. The people spent into the economy grew. And as the economy grew, the Exchequer got bigger because there's more people paying taxes. So it just shows you the economic model is absolutely nuts. It's batshit crazy.
I haven't got a crystal ball, so I can't tell people when the massive unemployment is going to take place. It's really just down to how much fat the companies have got on their backs.
Well, it'll be very slow.
Yeah.
It will be quite, it'll come in increments, and we'll get quarterly figures, and they'll play with the figures to try and make it not look as bad as it is.
Yeah.
But it'll be one factory at a time, one office block at a time, one retail outlet at a time. We've already had a lot of change go on. Now we're looking at independents. It's because the independents can't buy their stuff from abroad anymore. It's too bloody expensive. And a lot of the stuff's not manufactured here. So what is here, the commodity prices will go up. Adding to the pressure.
Yeah, you'll see on TV. It'll become a repeat of what we saw through the banking crisis, where it became a night after night news point. ABC have shut down, DEF have shut down. There are lots of 500 jobs, and that's when you actually see the tipping point happen. And sorry, carry on.
But we have already been seeing this happening. The retail chains, normally it happens to retail chains first. We've seen the big retail chains go under.
Yeah.
And that's because we Mrs. McGumpher's not taking the brain out to get them new togs and new shoes and crap because money's tight.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's sad, but it's something we're going to go through. It's something we're going to see happening, and I honestly hope that none of the people that I know go through it, but it's going to happen. Anyway, we'll get on to the next slide.
Aye.
Dictatorship.
So we went to Brexit, anti a cost of living crisis, which was predicted. Let's be right about this, David. This was predicted in 2016, but they kept kicking the can down the road, and then the pandemic got in the middle, saving a lot of people's jobs. Then with the opening up to the pandemic, take things back to the level where it was, because a lot of people had been artificially kept in work. Now, we had 2021 with the reopening, so we've seen the economy expanding back to where it was. First quarter of 2022 proves that they've made an absolute arse here. January, 0.1% growth. February, flat lines. March, minus 0.1% growth, wiping out January's growth. And April, we're in negative territory again, 0.3% negative growth, which means the economy is contracting. It will contract this time round, and it will contract in the next quarter. And during that contraction, people will be companies will be shelling jobs. They'll not be taking on new projects. Things will be, as we already know, the importation of raw materials is very, very expensive. Farmers, for example, fertiliser up 140%. Wow. You can see a self-perpetuation happening here.
Well, the next one, dictatorship, is very close to my heart. I did a blog on it this morning, or early this morning, about 2 o'clock this morning, and it was called The Burning Issue, and I hope enough people have had time to read it. And the main point I'm putting out is that it's a question: do we live in a democracy, or is it now a dictatorship? So I'll just open this slide up and read down the bits. The entire UK has someone in charge that is proving impossible to get rid of, no matter what he does. That's a dictatorship. Even with a clear mandate for holding a referendum, the Scottish Government is being told that a referendum is not going to happen. That's a dictator speaking. A dictator will always spout lies about what he and his gang are doing for the Union, whilst anyone with the eyes to see is witnessing the destruction of society and our way of life. The dictator will surround himself with like-minded despots such as Priti Patel and Jacob Rees-Mogg. And last one is, it is up to us in Scotland to break that dictatorship. Back to the top, David. The entire UK now has someone in charge that is proving impossible to get rid of, no matter what he does. That's a dictatorship.
Yes, and what's interesting about it is Bojo's manipulating the rules to keep himself where he is. We've seen what happened with Gates quitting because of the changes to the ministerial code. Bojo is his own judge and jury, and he's getting away with it. And that's because he has surrounded himself with sycophants who are manipulating the laws as well, but we'll get to that. On to the next bit, David.
Yeah, well, the next bit is, and I suppose you've covered the second, but a dictator will always spout lies about what he and his gang are doing for the Union, whilst anyone with eyes to see is witnessing the destruction of society and our way of life.
Well, Keir Starmer said the same thing in the Commons yesterday, but because you know how you can't call somebody a liar in the Commons, so Bojo was boasting about economic growth and highest employment, more people on the payroll, that sort of thing. And what Starmer said to him was, Bojo, you're using a Jedi mind tricks on the people. You think you're Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the people can see through you. You're actually Jabba the Hutt. You know, because what you just said there about them telling us that they're doing things that they aren't doing. For example, the building of 40 new hospitals. See, when you look at the category area that they're talking about, what they've got to call a new hospital, there's three categories. One that's getting a do-over, that's to be called a new hospital. One that's getting a new wing is to be called a new hospital, and a new hospital being built to be called a new hospital. So they're boasting about 40, when actually they're only building 5 and retrofitting the other 35, and they're calling them 40 new hospitals. That's how you deceive people. That's how a dictator deceives people.
The highest growth rate in the G7. The lowest unemployment since the 1970s.
Peter Stefanovic debunks all this stuff. I debunk all this stuff. We've got the lowest growth rate in the G20, and it's projected to get worse over the next decade. That's for the OBR themselves.
Anyway, the dictator will surround himself with like-minded despots, such as Priti Patel and Jacob Rees-Mogg.
This is the important bit. This is the bit that people have to get. These sycophants are not just there to please Bojo. They're also there to strip away our human rights. Look at some of the bills that have been through down that road, and we talk about dictatorship, right? Let's start off with the Covert Human Sources Bill, allowing agents of the government to break the law in the course of their duties if it's in the interest of national security or economic security. That makes all us pro-independent supporters in Scotland dissidents, because Scotland leaving the UK is an economic risk, okay, for the UK. And then we move on one feet there. They made us dissidents, but they can't get rid of us because we're UK citizens. So what did they do? They introduced the Borders and Immigrations Bill, so that the Home Secretary has the right to strip you of your citizenship if you have the chance if it's a chance that you could get citizenship of another nation. But then, so there we have it. You're a dissident. We've removed your citizenship. How did they get rid of you? Well, Rwanda, No citizenship in the UK. That means you can be trafficked to Rwanda. Just join all the dots as you go down. Some of the laws that are being introduced. The police crime courts and sentencing bill down that road. More or less abolishing the right to public protest. And there's another one called the Public Order Bill going through down that road, which will actually put an end to public protest. They're expecting to down that road, and they're digging in. Sorry, David, on you go.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say, look, if there's anybody listening to this program that thinks somehow that can't happen, that somebody from Scotland could end up in a plane heading to Rwanda, it's the way they do it. What they do is that they demonize whoever it is. I mean, for example, if it was me and Davey, right, and that they decided that they were going to remove our citizenship, which the law says they can, right, and get us on an airplane to Rwanda, How would they do it? They would demonise us first, and they would make it whereby people would be happy that we were going on that airplane. That's how they do it.
That's all part of the lies, aye.
Yeah.
I mean, my young brother wanted us to talk about propaganda today because of a Project Fear 2.0 is already underway. But more sinister is the stripping away of our rights. I haven't got to the end part of that where they're actually, we're now at the point where they're talking about withdrawing from the European Court on Human Rights, scrapping for human rights and writing a bill of British rights. Oh, I forgot to mention, by the way, in the police crimes courts and sentencing act doing that road, they also demonised Romani gypsies and outlawed their lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Anyway, the final point is it's up to us in Scotland to break that dictatorship.
Yes, it is. Because England needs to get through this identity crisis it's got. It still has this imperial mindset. Fintan O'Toole, the writer for the Irish Times, he wrote a book on this stuff about the English psyche, you know, and how they need to get out of their imperial mindset. The last piece of the puzzle is for Scotland to leave the Union. Now, the problem with England is their class system and their idea of exceptionalism, that they're better than anybody else. You know, I mean, they treat Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland like colonies. In fact, the UN's got Scotland listed as a colony to be decolonised. That's how we know if we have this vote, the European Union, the rest of the international community is going to recognise us, because we're on the list of nations to be decolonised in the United Nations. You know?
Yeah. Well, that's basically the wee sort of slideshow. We've got the common trade war, and I'll just bring up all the sections on that.
Let's move on to the trade war that's coming.
Yep. The Northern Ireland Protocol benefits the people there greatly. Northern Ireland is now the fastest growing part of the UK economy outside London. The UK Tory leadership plan to break that protocol, which at the moment gives the people in Northern Ireland the best of both worlds, in that they can still trade freely with the other 27 EU countries, and they are still part of the UK. It also breaks the Good Friday Agreement, a criminal act on both counts. The EU's response will be to simply protect their border and will place heavy sanctions on the UK as a result. A trade war will ensue that will cost each of us dearly.
Hold on, David. Before we get to the end of this one, I need to address a comment by John Duncan Burgess. Many in Scotland think that Scotland will vote yes in the so-called referendum next year. Truth is that most people in Scotland will vote no to Scottish independence. Well, you know, we'll see that when that happens. Plus, we won't allow a referendum. Who the hell do you think could stop us? There'll be no court cases. In any court case that they come up will be laughed out, John. The reason for it is quite simple. How do you stop somebody from asking themselves a question? And as to this constitution being reserved, let me make this clear. We don't have a codified constitution. There is no UK constitution. We'll go into the court of law and you go into the court of law and say the constitution is reserved. Davey will take the case himself. I'll say, put the constitution on the table. Constitution is a contract between a people and its government, John. If you can't put the contract on the table, under Scots contract law, it doesn't bloody exist. So there isn't a codified constitution, so the constitution can't be reserved. So you can't stop us by having a referendum and asking myself a question. One better than that, the Referenda Act Scotland 2019 is already passed into law. All we have to do is agree in that Parliament to have a referendum, and that's exactly what will happen. So the next bit of legislation going through is only to determine the type of referendum. Referenda was devolved to Scotland in the Smith Commission in 2016. So elections is a devolved matter, referenda is a devolved matter, and the Referenda Act's already on the books, John. So we're having a referenda. Whether they want to recognise it or no, it doesn't matter to us. The rest of the international community will. But if you think we'll vote no, then campaign hard for voting no, John. And we'll let the people of Scotland decide in a democratic process, because democracy will win, John. So this idea that you won't allow us to have a referendum, whoever you are, is absolutely nuts. Right, please, back onto the trade war, mate.
Yeah, sorry, and I would just say one final thing to John. Look, John, is the UK a democracy?
Or a dictatorship? We've just discussed that.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. If you're saying that we can't, that we're not allowed, and all the rest of it, that's not democracy. Anyway, right.
It's also not a union, David. It then takes us into the territory of colony and being a slave race to the imperial masters in London. But let's get back to the trade war. I've explained the point of view to John. It's up to John to campaign hard to stop Scotland for having this referendum. Well, actually, he can't stop us for having the referendum, but he can stop us for winning it if he can make the no argument. Let's get back to the trade war.
Okay, so the first part of that was Northern Ireland Protocol benefits the people there greatly. Northern Ireland is now the fastest growing part of the UK economy outside of London.
Yes, and it's becoming a bloody embarrassment for a Westminster and the extreme Brexiteers down there. So that's the reason for having to rip up the protocol. They want Northern Ireland to suffer along with the rest of us. Remember, Scotland did try to accommodate Brexit. The First Minister wrote a paper called Scotland's Place in Europe, and they dumped it right in the bin.
Yeah.
You don't have to give us nothing, John. Did you know that income tax has devolved and benefits up here come through our Scottish benefit system? You're talking for a place where you don't even know what you're talking about, John. Devolution's a totally different animal. Right, on we go, David.
Yeah, okay. The UK Tory leadership plan to break that protocol, which at the moment gives the people in Northern Ireland the best of both worlds, in that they can still trade freely with the other 27 EU countries, and they are still part of the UK. It also breaks the Good Friday Agreement, a criminal act on both counts.
Well, England, Westminster, sorry, let's not call it England. Westminster is a bad faith actor. Simple as that. It makes agreements and does not stand by them, breaking international law. We've seen it with the rights to seek asylum. We have seen it with the NI protocols now. But the real reason for what's going on with Northern Ireland is it's becoming embarrassing to the Brexiteers, because it means that Theresa May was right. The backstop was the way to make Brexit work. We all stayed in the single market. We all stayed in the customs union. It was what the First Minister of Scotland wanted for Scotland as well, the Northern Ireland type deal, because it would give us access to 450 million of a market, which is what we have to get back to independence, because the internal market here of 65 million is not a lot. And this crap about a 60% of our trade goes to England, well, it does. It's because they need it. And that will still be there after any yes vote, because they don't have any meaningful trade deals with anybody around the world. So where else are they going to get it? Apart from that, we're on the same rock. And that same rock means costs of getting it for us will still be cheaper than trying to get it for elsewhere. Now, England will trade with us. England, I've said this before, England will crawl up that road with broken glass to get a trade deal with Scotland. It requires oil, gas, electricity and water and food fees. And that won't change just because we decide to govern ourselves.
Another important thing, which is the optics of that situation. When you've got a country that breaks international deals so easily, then what does that do to the trust between countries? It means that people look at the UK and go, I wouldn't make a deal with them because, well, they'll just break it.
That's
and
right.
that affects trade agreements, defence agreements, everything. You've got to take that. This plays badly on the international stage. The countries looking at us now must be thinking, wouldn't deal with them. Wouldn't touch them with
the other thing is Westminster's grandstanding 65 million up against a market of 450 million, and they think that the EU is going to bend. What is happening is this: the UK is becoming more and more isolationist. That's why we have to break free.
Yep. Right. So the next thing is the EU's response will be to simply protect their border and will place heavy sanctions on the UK as a result. A
Aye.
trade war will ensue that will cost each of us dearly.
Yes, it will cost each of us, and it's not just coming for the EU, we're going to smack for the US on the other side as well. John's telling us that most English people, including myself, don't want Scotland to leave the United Kingdom. We value Scotland, but in general, most English people don't support Scottish independence. John, that's absolutely not true, and 49% of people in England in the last poll also wanted England to leave the Union. So it's a done deal, mate. It's all done but the dusting. Take back controls what's going on in England with the right wing, and they'll win out the same way they did with Brexit. 49% of English people want to break the Union as well. Pressure is coming from all angles here, John. You've got the Northern Irish screaming for a unification poll. You've got you've got Scotland will be having a referendum. You've got Wales. Hopefully, in the future, we'll get its status sorted out, and it can have a go at self-determination and all. But England really needs to have self-determination, John, because it's the only way you're going to break that mad class system down there, which has got you on your knees.
I'll finish up this little slideshow. Basically, that's the end, or is it? That's up to you. But El Presidente Johnson doesn't think so, does he?
Nah.
So I'm going to come out of this presentation so we can do a little finish up, okay?
Aye. But John, it's interesting to get your points of view in the comments. Most people in England have been trained to think that we're all subsidy junkies, and that your taxes are actually subsidising us. But what we've just found out through the Chancellor's, through the energy strategy down that road is, and the windfall taxes, it's actually Scotland's resources which is subsidising the rest of the UK, John.
Yeah.
But it's nice that you don't want us to leave, John. But I'm afraid you're in a low number down that road, with 49% down there looking for England to become independent. It's all just a matter of time, John. And as I say, there will be a referendum, because you can't stop us. Who the hell do you think you are when you say we won't allow? Scotland's a country, a sovereign country. There's nobody can tell us we can't ask ourselves a question. Westminster knows that as well. But John, independence for England is coming, even if you prefer the Union.
The Union isn't serving anybody at the moment.
It's serving the elite down that road.
That's all.
Oh.
That's all. We can see the 1% are doing bloody well, and they continue to do bloody well every day. And the people that are not part of that club, you're just going to lose, unless you do something that is going to change that picture. And the only thing that's going to change that picture for the people of Scotland is independence, because that bloody Parliament is only 45 miles away from my house. I could get a push bike and get there. Well, maybe not nowadays, but anyway, I'll try, right? And that means I can get up to the front door, and I can blooming shout at the buggers and get them out the door if they don't blooming do the right thing.
Aye, David. John Burgess has come back with, well, we must also vote in this independence referendum. It should be UK-wide. We allowed you lot to take part in the referendum. You can allow us the same. John, for a start, it's none of your bloody business. It's a question for the people of Scotland. And as for your referendum, last time I looked, we were in a union and still are. And the Brexit referendum was UK-wide. So we were told when we were told to shut up and get back in our box because you voted to leave the European Union. We didn't. I guess you don't really have much sense of the democratic deficit in the United Kingdom, John. But you won't be voting in our referendum because it's a question for the people of Scotland. There's not a question for the people of the UK. It's none of the UK's business. We're in a union. And to quote Geoffrey Cox, ex-Lord Advocate, and the last one that was actually qualified for a job down in the House of Thieves and Carpetbaggers, Westminster, no sovereign nation can be held in a treaty against its will. And as the union, the UK Union is made up by treaties, then none of us can be held in that treaty against their will. That's why it's called a voluntary union, John. But so far in the comments, it's been quite interesting to see that you thought that we were a personal belonging who you could say couldn't ask yourself a question, and now that we've told you and explained to you we're going to ask ourselves a question, whatever the answer is, we'll abide by it because we're Democrats. Now you're telling us that you want a say in our future. Wow, the arrogance of it. This is what we'll talk about when we talk about English exceptionalism. Wow, you people doing that road really are having an identity crisis. You still think you're an imperial power, but to quote President Putin, the UK is a tiny rock off the continent of Europe and is of no significance in the world. He wasn't actually talking about the whole of the UK. He was talking about Westminster and England, actually. You know. Anyway, David, I think we've ran over 30 minutes a wee bit. But John, your comments have been very helpful because it allows the audience to see the attitude from down in England. So thank you very much for your comments, John. And I really have enjoyed debating it with you.
John, just to add in a wee bit to John, really, John, you're no different to people that we've talked to many times in the past from England. What you've said today is nothing new, nothing unusual. It's just you need to realise that Scotland and England are in a treaty, and it's a bit of paper, and a treaty relies on both sides wanting to be in that treaty. Well, now it's a case that Scotland, we don't want to be in that union. We can paddle our own canoe. We can do an awful lot better than what's being done for us by our thieves and carpetbaggers down that road in the House of Commons, right? So it's time. It's time for us to just go, right, we're taking our political and economic power and we are going to paddle our own canoe. The social union will still be there, John. We will still, I've got family and friends in England, and there are people in England that have got family and friends in Scotland. That social union will still exist. Don't you worry about that. And Scotland and England will still trade because it's not about the government. It's about businesses and businesses buying off businesses. So at the end of the day, there's no problem in that respect. And it will not affect you personally of whether we become an independent country or not. You might see us doing a wee bit better than we are now, but that's it, you know. So your arguments are much appreciated, and it gave David something to bounce off. But to be honest with you, it's a bit tawdry now. All right, John. Right. Anyway, right. Thanks very much, guys. It's been marvelous having you on. I'll be sharing the YouTube video of this to Facebook, and if you want to pick it up later on and share it about, then thank you very much. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe. Please,
right,
we need.
Sorry, David. Just to wrap this up, folks, remember I've got a daily show. There'll be one out tomorrow. I do Monday to Friday, and the Two Davies will be every Thursday at 4 o'clock. Now, going forward, as we get further into the campaign towards the next referendum, Davey and I will probably up our output in live feeds through YouTube at certain times. We'll always give you notification when it's going to happen, okay? But as we get into it, we will be back to do more chats like this one, the PowerPoint productions and things like that to direct the conversation. And we hope that you'll join us again next Thursday, where we will do it all again. And as I say, I hope you've enjoyed the show, folks. Right, David, anything else to add?
Just the reason why we're having difficulty with Facebook is out of our hands. And if you can imagine, when we hit a brick wall like that, then we think, how can we get around that brick wall? Well, we're doing it YouTube, right? And it would be an idea for all of you to become used to coming on YouTube to watch us, because that looks like is the way that it's going to go in the future. Facebook are closing the doors. that in.
Right, guys, we hope you enjoyed the show, and we hope you join us next Thursday. I'm going to end the stream now. Bye then.